Hey, this is René, welcome back to another video. And today I want to work on this daily grid trading expert advisor, the expert advisor that I write together with you on YouTube. And we already in the last video figured out how we can get the moving average trend direction. And in this video, I want to prepare everything for the market or for the positions or for the orders. So again, I asked below the last video in the comment section what mechanism you like to prefer for the position or for the order placement. And many guys mentioned the pivot points. So I think I will focus on this. Functionality for this expert advisor. So first of all, I want to make some more changes to our already existing program because we have this moving average trend direction. We figured out the trend direction with a specific moving average indicator. And if you have any questions about the code that I already show here, you should definitely go back and watch the previous video. I will not explain everything again. So just go back and watch the video and I show everything in detail there. So first of all, I want to create some input variables for the parameter list of this moving average indicator. So I can say MA time frame, for example, and I can say MA periods, and I can say, and I will explain this in a second. So this is something I usually like to do when I work with indicators. So the way we set everything up in the last video was a way where we hard code pretty much all the parameters of this moving average. This is not a good idea because in this case the user of the program has no flexibility. So a better way is to create several input variables, because if you then compile the program and activate it or in any chart or just have a look at the inputs, you will see the user is able to change these things by using, for example, these drop-down menus or by just adding another value here. So these are input variables, and they are input variables because we write this input in front of a global variable that is outside of any function. And you can try it out for yourself. You can do it with any type. So I could do this for integer variables, which are numbers. I could do it for double variables, which are numbers that can have a decimal point and digits after this decimal point. And we can do this for enumerations. So these enumerations, like enum timeframes, enum MA method, and enum applied price, they are all predefined. And if you have a look at the reference, which you can open by clicking F1 on your keyboard, you will see all the possible options. And whenever you have an input variable with a enumeration, you will see all the options here as a drop-down menu. So this is really useful, and I would always recommend doing this. Again, you know what kind of enumerations are used, because you can see this in the IMA entry for the moving average function in the documentation. So you can see enum timeframes, enum MA method, and enum applied price. And these are exactly the things I use here. So there's one more thing I have to change, because now we just created these variables and we still have to use them. So we can exchange or hard-coded values here with the input variables. So whatever the user wants to define there will then be applied to the moving average handle in the onInit function. Then there's one more thing that I want to change, which keeps our code cleaner. We have everything here in the onTick function for the calculation of the moving average trend. Now I want to write a separate function for this. I can say get MA trend, for example, and then I just take all the code here and cut it here and paste it in my new function. And because I said this function returns a integer value, I will then return 1 or -1 here for the moving average trend direction. And if there is no direction, which shouldn't really happen, but in this case we can return 0. So now in the onTick function we just have to say MA trend is equal to get MA trend. And the result is exactly the same. And there's one more thing, we cannot use this MA variable here anymore. Because it is not available here in this onTick function. It is now only available in the get moving average trend function. So we should, we have to erase this here and just paste the moving average trend here. Okay, so what we did, we just put all the code for the calculation of the moving average trend in a separate function. So we just created a separate function, and this is really easy. You just go outside of any other function, then you define a return type for this function, which means that once the function is called, it will return a single value, and this value has a type. For example, in this case, it has the type int. Then there's a name for the function, which is get moving average trend. This is the name that you use to call the function. And then there is the option to add some parameters. And yeah, here we have empty parentheses because we do not have any parameters for this function. And then in curly brackets, you have the body of the function. This is the piece of code that is executed whenever the function is called. And by returning values like this, you can define the return value. So in the onTick function, which is the event handling function that is called by the MetaTrader, we can now just call the getMaTrend function, and it will give us the MA trend. So now I said in this video, I want to calculate the pivot points for the previous day. So this will be the point where we can then place our orders. So for the pivot point calculation, I have this little cheat sheet here where I will just get my information from. So let me just copy this block real quick so I know how I can calculate everything. Wait, what is this level? Okay, so this is the calculation for the different levels. So first of all, I want to calculate. First of all, we need some information from the previous day, right? So we need the high, the low, the open, and the close, I think. Or no, we do not even need the open. So we need the high, low, and close. So we use the I high, I low, and I close function for this. So first of all, we declare a new double variable, which is named high. Or we can say high D1 because it is the daily high of the previous day. And in this I high function, for this I high function, I have 3 parameters. First of all, I define the symbol that I want to get like the high value from. Then the time frame. And this is again a enumeration. So I can choose any of these values. And I choose period D1 because I want the daily high value. And then there's a shift value. This is 1 in this case because, as always, for these data series, counting starts at 0 for the last bar in the chart. And if I switch to the daily time frame, I want the previous bar, so I choose index 1 here as a shift value. So I can do the same thing for the low. I just have to use the iLow function. The rest pretty much stays exactly the same, and I could do the same thing for the close. So I say iClose, symbol, period D1 and 1. And now I can already calculate the pivot point. Or I can just say pp. And I say, and this is like really easy now because I just fill in the variables for this calculation. So I say high plus low plus close divided by 3. And this is enough to calculate the pivot point. And now I can say I want the S1 value, which is 2 times the pivot point minus the high. And then I have this S2 value, which is the pivot point minus the high minus the low. And then I have S3, which is the low minus 2 times the high minus the pivot point. I hope that I didn't make a mistake here, but I think this should be correct. And now I can also calculate the resistance levels, of course. So R1 is R2 multiplied with the pivot point minus the low. And then I have the resistance level 2, which is the pivot point plus the high minus the low. And then I have the R3. I do not know if the definition for the pivot point is always like this, but if you have another definition, you can just exchange like the mathematical calculations here for your levels. The rest of the program can stay the same, I think. So pivot point minus low. Yeah, we do not need this, but I will still add it, plus the high. So these should be the levels here. And yeah, since we now just calculated these levels and did nothing else pretty much, we should now, we should maybe add these levels as a visual line in the program, right? So we could add these levels and we should write another function for this. So for example, we can say add a level, and then we will use this function to add a level. And of course, we will need a parameter here, which will give us the information where we want to place this level. And this level will be a horizontal line pretty much. So we can say, or we want to say create or object create, because we will create a trend line in the chart. And trend lines are these lines that you can place pretty much everywhere, and they have a fixed starting and a fixed ending point. So this is like the perfect object for us to use here. So we want to create this object in the current chart, which is chart 0. Then we have to get, we have to provide a object name. And this is something that we will use often. So we create a string variable for this. A name is a text value. So we can choose this string data format, because string data format in programming is usually a text value. So we can say pivot, or just level, or daily grid trading. We should choose something, some common prefix, so we can delete the objects later on. And then we can say we should have the time, and we should maybe add the time here, date time 1. Oh no, we can do it here, I think. So we should have the time 1, which is the starting time of the current day. And this is pretty much the same as we did here with this I high, I low, and I close function. There's also a I time function, of course, and we choose the same parameter, but as a last parameter for the shift value, we choose 0, because we want the time of the current day. And then we have the time 2, which is time 1 plus period seconds period D1. So we use this calculation to get the end of the day, because we just add like a complete day to this value. And the datetime data format is just a data format that is used as a for timestamps pretty much. So a datetime variable will hold a very big number pretty much, which is the amount of seconds that elapsed since January the 1st of 1970. So this is just a really big number. You could also use a long variable for this because it is really just a really big number. But datetime variables are interpreted differently in the mql5 framework, because if the program sees it's a datetime variable, it will interpret it like a time value. This is why we use this datetime data format. But you can do calculations like this because it is just a calculation with numbers. So I can now add this time here, or it's even easier if I use this string concatenate function, where I can just concatenate multiple values. So I'd say time 1, and I also add the price here, maybe with a blank space in between. So now we should calculate the object name, and we can now use this. Oh wait, I'm in MetaTrader 5, so I have to do it like this. Object name, so like this. Because this string concatenate function, it will take any string variable, which is the first parameter, and then it will combine or concatenate all the following parameters and will put it as one text value inside of this variable. This is what the string concatenate function does pretty much. So we can now use this object name variable as a name for the object that we create. And then I said already we want to create a object trend, which is this trend line. Then we have to define the sub window, which is 0, because we created in the current chart window. And now we have the time and price. So we add time 1, or price, time 2, and or price again, because we want a horizontal line, right? So if we compile this, this is already enough here. So yeah, once we created this object, we can now yeah, this is, I think, already enough. There's one more thing we should do in the onDinit function, because we say objects delete all, because then we want to create, we want to delete in the current chart all the objects that have the name DGT, because yeah, we will just clear up the chart. And since all of our objects start with DGT in the object name, we can delete all the objects if we add this code here in the onDinit function. So in this code, we now have this add level function. So now we just have to call it here. So we say add level with the PP values, and then we say add level with the S1 value, and we say add level with the S2 value, and we say add level with the S3 value, and add level with the R1, add level with the R2, add level with the R3 value. So we add all of these values to the chart as objects pretty much. So if we switch to a lower time frame, we should in the best case see these levels, but somewhere I think I made a mistake. So we will have to have a look at this again. Or maybe the problem is just that the onTick function is not called because I'm recording on a Sunday. So a quick fix is to call this onTick function in the onInit function, because the onInit function is executed always when the program is started. So now we have several levels here, and we have, I think this should be the pivot, this should be the resistance levels, and this should be the support levels, if I'm not messing up the order. But as we can see, this seems to work. So we already put the levels into the chart here. And this is not looking like super sexy because we do not really know what level is what is which level. So what we can do here is maybe we can add something like this, where we create another parameter S2 for our add level function, and then we will be able to see what kind of level it is. If we now again go here and say we have another parameter which is name, for example, and now we can add this to our list here for the string concatenate function. So if we compile this again, we should now see, yeah, now it says DGT PP, and this is R1. Okay, so the resistance levels are above the PP, of course, and yeah, this seems to be correct, but I don't really know why it is like this. Did I calculate everything correctly? Plus D. Yeah, I mean, I just copied this definition and did the calculations like this, right? So it should be correct, I think. Yeah, I think it's correct. And we now learned how to add all of these levels to our program, pretty much. Yeah, now I think this is enough for this short video tutorial. So what we added here in this video, first of all, we added these input variables for the calculation of the moving average. Then we outsourced pretty much the calculation of the moving average trend to this separate function here. So we just put all the code which is used for the calculation in the function. And then we calculated the pivot points and the support and resistance levels here. So what we did here, we just calculated the high, low, and close price of the previous day because we need it for the calculations. Then we calculated the pivot points and the support and resistance points. And this is like really easy. We just create a variable for each point, which is a double variable, of course, because it is a price and it has a decimal point and digits after the decimal point. And the calculation, this is just math. So nothing really to explain here. We can just take the definition from some website in the web, and you just exchange the P or the H here with the variables that we just created. And then it's really just plain math and calculations. So we calculate the levels, and then we created this add level function, which has two parameters, and we call this 7 times because this is used. Here you find the add level function. This is used to put the pivot point and the support and resistance points in the current chart. So what we do here is, again, we have these two parameters for the function. So you can just define them here in these in the brackets after the function name. This function does not return any value because it's just used to display the levels as trend lines in the chart. And then we calculate the 2 times, which we use to define the starting and ending point for our trend line. And then we just call the object create function, where we want to display a object in the current chart. This is a object trend, so a trend line, and we start at the time 1 value. We the first point has the price as a price level. Then we go until we reach the time 2 value, and again the value, the price level is again taken from this price variable. So this is like the way how we can get a horizontal line with a starting and a ending point. And for the object name, we created another variable, which is of type string, of course, because it is a text value. And then we put some values inside of this variable using the string concatenate function. We always make our objects start with DGT. This is useful because then we have the same prefix for every single object, and we can then use the objects delete all function in the onDinit function, which requests a prefix. Here you can see it. So it knows what objects it shall delete. And then we have the name, which is taken from this variable here, which is pp, r1, s1, s2, etc., etc. And then we have the time one and the price. You should always add several pieces to build this like object name, because it would not work if we just do it like this. So the objects cannot all have the same name, DGT, because an object name has to be unique for the chart. So you can add several things here to build this object name, and this is the way it will work. So this is what we did in this video, and you can now go ahead and use this. You can even use this in the strategy tester, which you can find if you click on view strategy tester, and you will see that we can always get the moving average trend, and we always get like these pivot levels for every single day. And in the next video, we will then go ahead and at the start of a new day or at a specific point of time, I will just think about this. We then add orders. For example, if we have a short trend, we could add sell orders here, sell limit orders here, and maybe even sell stop orders here. So yeah, I will think about this. Maybe you can give me some more ideas in the comment section. And then I will add more code to this program, and we will build it step by step. So we are then able to trade the pivot points in this like grid trading expert advisor. So I hope you liked this little insight. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, as always. And I will see you in the next video. Until then, have a great time and good trades. Bye bye.